Alright guys, well today we are going to start, we're still working on proportions, so we're still going to be setting up proportions, but now we're going to be setting them up a certain way. There's actually a formula for us to use. So go ahead and open up your spiral to a clean sheet of paper and copy this down. Part over whole equals percent over 100. The biggest key is you have to know that percent is always over 100. So when you say you're 20%, that's 20 out of 100. You have to know that. Remember that from 6th grade. Another way that part can be said is over of. And I'll show you that today as well. So the big takeaway from this is that the percent always goes above 100. It's always over 100, no matter what. Your part, so let's talk about part. Your part, I'm going to have some room down here. Part cannot be bigger than the whole. Meaning part has to be smaller than your whole. So if you say you have 2 out of 3 slices of pizza, well, your part is 2 because you have 2. Out of the whole thing, there's 3 slices. You don't say I have 3 slices out of 2 because the 3 would be bigger. Your part would be bigger, which is 3 over 2. We cannot have that happen. So your part cannot be bigger than the whole. So what do we know about the whole? The whole can also be your total. Okay, that's another way you might see it today is total is also the whole. That's the biggest takeaway from these setting up this proportion today is looking at these notes. So let's begin. So you have to determine if you're finding the part, whole, or a percent. So we're looking up here. You're just going to go back to your notes and look where is X located, and is that your part, your whole, or a percent? So let's do number 1, for example, and then you're going to do the rest by yourself. Number 1, I have 20 over 80 equals X over 100. So my formula is P over W, part over whole, percent over 100. Well, I notice that my X is in percent, so what am I trying to find? Percent. So that's how you're going to do all of these, 1 through 10. So go ahead and pause the video, and then once you're done, play it again. So now we're going to practice setting these up. And you have 2 of these on your quiz that's coming up, I think next week, I can't remember. But here we go. If we look back at our notes, or right up here, the is on top, the of's on bottom, parts on top, wholes on bottom, percent over 100. So I've been nice, was nice, and I put the 100 where it should go. So that's one less thing you have to remember. So let's read number 1. What is 50%? Where does percent always go? Above 100. Of 90. So of's in front of the word 90. So where would 90 go? Below. There's your X. You would cross multiply, so X times 100 is 100X equals. Well, I have 90 times 50, so 9 times 5 is 45, and then add 2 zeros. Then we're going to divide by 100. Well, to make our life easier, we can get rid of 2 zeros, 2 on top, 2 on bottom. So really, we just have 45 divided by 1, which is X equals 45. Now let's make sure it makes sense. If I took 45 here and plugged it in, 45 over 90. Does that make sense? Is my part smaller than my whole? Yes. We want 50%. So is 45 out of 90, is 45 half of 90? Yes, it is. It has to make sense. So let's do number 2. What is 25%? So percent always goes over 100 of 30. Of's in front of 30, so that needs to go on bottom according to my notes. X here. We cross multiply, so we have 100x equals, well, 25 times 3. So if you have 3/4, that's 75. Add your 0. Divide by 100. We can only take away 1 0. So when we divide that, they want it in the tens place, so it's 7.5. You can double check your work because they want a tens place. That's 770. Decimal, decimal, 0. That's 5. Let's see if it makes sense. If I plug this in for 7.5, is 7.5 smaller than 30? Yes. Number 3. What is 10%? Percent always goes over 100. Of 65. Of is on bottom according to my notes. 65. Here's x. We cross multiply 100. X equals 65. And then add a 0 because 6 times 1 is 65. Then add a 0. Divide by 100. We can take away 1 0. X equals, they want a tenths place. So if this is my whole number, they want a tenths. So we put it there because the 5's in the tenths. So you could double check your work by doing 65 divided by 10. 6. Decimal, decimal, 0. 5. We are correct. So let's see if it makes sense. Equals 6.5. Is 6.5 smaller than 65? Yes. And then on number 4 and number 5, I want you to do those by yourself. So go ahead and pause the video. And then once you get done solving, setting them up and solving both of those, then start the video again. All right, guys, so let's continue. Check your work. 20%. Let me change it to red because I'm sticking with red. Of 25, x, 100x equals, well, 25 times 2 is 50. And then add your 0. Divide by 100. I can take away 2 zeros. So x equals 5. So let's see if it makes sense. If I plug this in for 5, is 5 smaller than 25? Yes. Questions? So check your work. See if you got it right. Number 5, 75% goes there. Of 50 goes here. X. Then we cross multiply and get 100x equals, well, we're going to have to multiply that one out. So 75 times 50. 25, 35, 37. So 3,750. That's 153. Then we divide by 100. I can only get rid of 1 0. Well, they want a tens place, so this is what I have on top. but they want a tens place, so we just add my tens right there. We plug it in, we have 37.5. Is that smaller than 50? Yes. And I know some of y'all are questioning my division, so let's go ahead and do it. Divide by 10. 3, 7, decimal, decimal, 0. And I was right. All right, we're going to move on to the next page, so get that one out.